Chris Hanson, your new campaign ad focuses on your plan to crack down on homeless encampments and crime. The ad opens with images of 7 people of color who appear homeless and committing crimes. Can you tell us about that choice you made?
Yeah, I felt like we really needed to highlight the number one issue on Denver voters' minds, which is people not feeling safe on the street and needing to step it up when it comes to public safety.
You've been calling for Senator Chris Hanson, to remove an ad. Can you speak to that and what you mean by that?
Yeah, I mean, if people haven't seen it, you can definitely go online and see it. There was an ad that was made by Chris Hanson, which features people of color as homeless, fighting thieves. He doesn't see it the way we see it. We had the whole audience of 12 mayoral candidates asking him to take it down. He's doubling down saying he won't. I just went and talked to him. He said, you could have called me. I said, I'm trying to call you in, man. Let's just move forward. Let's move forward.
How did it come to this? This is not the Denver I want for our kids. And City Hall's response isn't working. It's time for a new direction. As an engineer, I've solved complex problems in the private and public sectors. As mayor, I'll audit homeless programs and enforce the camping ban across the city. And I'll invest in highly trained, accountable police. I'm Chris Hanson. I have plans to solve these problems, not hide from them.
Chris Hanson, your new campaign ad focuses on your plan to crack down on homeless encampments and crime. The ad opens with images of 7 people of color who appear homeless and committing crimes. Can you tell us about that choice you made?
Yeah, I felt like we really needed to highlight the number one issue on Denver voters' minds, which is people not feeling safe on the street and needing to step it up when it comes to public safety. I'm so glad we get to talk about recruitment because, we have 1,600 officers. We're way short in the police department. We're even worse on the sheriff's side. I am the only candidate up here who's been endorsed by rank and file law enforcement officers, enjoying the endorsement from the sheriffs that are part of the Teamsters Union. And I got that endorsement because what I communicated to them was I am ready on day one as the next mayor to reinvest and reinvigorate those departments. Our sheriff's department right now for frontline officers is down 40% headcount. 40%. Our jail is in a crisis situation, forced overtime leading to more people leaving the department, leading to more forced overtime. We have serious work to do to improve public safety. And I'm so proud to get their endorsement in this race because I think I am the candidate who can address this crisis that we're in.
Ian Tafoya, I watched you have a physical reaction to Chris Hanson's defense of the ad featuring people of color committing crimes and experiencing homelessness.
I gotta be real honest about this. Raise your hand here on the stage if you're disgusted by an ad that makes people of color as the only criminals or the people who are overrepresented in homelessness. It is a trope that has been broken forever. There's a reason why people have PhDs in this writing books about it. I cannot believe that he would make this ad. I am so disappointed in you. We've worked on things together. When I saw that ad, I called a lot of people, and guess what? They agree with us. I hope that you will denounce it and take it away.
Thank you, Chris Hanson.
I think that's fine. I took actual footage from around town. It is not just people of color that are featured in this ad. I think this is really kind of shocking that it suddenly becomes this conversation about the way that we took footage. This is the number one issue on voters' minds. How do we improve public safety? How do we address the homelessness crisis? To have some accusation that somehow a racist ad, I think, is totally overwrought. It doesn't make any sense.
Leslie here.
I gotta agree with Ian here. And as a woman of color, as a black woman, it's really interesting to me to have someone on the stage ignore the fact that people of color are asking you to take that ad down. It is offensive and it's scary for our communities. But I want to be clear. You didn't see what we saw because you're not us.
Yep.
But you've got to put those blinders away. You've got to have more people looking at your ads and in your administration that look like the communities you're serving. It was offensive, Chris, and as a friend of mine, I'm disappointed too.
Kwame Spearman, last thought on this before we move on.
I just want to say, I think there's actually something Lisa and I can agree on. There are more white people who are homeless on the streets of Denver right now than there are people of color. And so, Chris, I love you, but I couldn't agree more with Ian. If you want to use your engineering degree, you got to have statistics. And statistics are showing something that was not represented on that video.
Kwame Spearman, thank you.
You raised your hand on the Chris Hanson video as it related to, I think it was considered racist And the question was asked, how many believe that, that was indeed the case? I might be restating the question a little bit, but the controversy or the conversation right now is a conversation about Senator Chris Hanson's unhoused neighbor ad, and many have taken offense by it, and I believe you were one of them. Can you just clarify what your thoughts were, speak more to that before, we get deeper into our conversation?
Yeah, I was happy that Ian Tafoya called him out at the debate last night. I raised my hand because I agreed with Ian. It was a kind of a 21st century, almost like a Willie Horton type ad. Sort of a demonizing of people. There was, and I do think there was a racist element to it. I don't know what conversations he was in and putting it together, so I want to give him a little bit of the benefit of the doubt, but I agreed with Ian.
Well, for those who don't know, and they hear the word Willie Horton, kind of touch on that.
Yeah, that was an ad that George Bush Sr. used in the Michael Dukakis campaign in it was 88, and Dukakis was ahead that whole summer. Looked like Dukakis was going to win the campaign, and Bush put together this ad about a prisoner who was furloughed under Michael Dukakis. But the way the ad was done, it was really one of the oldest tropes in American history. It sort of, this sort of image of black criminality that was pumped up and made to scare people, and unfortunately it worked.
I think that Ian actually made a call for Chris Hanson to take that ad down. Do you add your voice to that as well?
I do, absolutely, because it's not just the element of race in the video, but it's really, again, the dehumanization of people who are unhoused. This sort of shadowy imagery of people, I think, intended to scare people and instill fear, and that's to me the low road of politics, the lowest road that there is.
What is your take and your perspective on the ad? And I'm hearing folks calling it racist, etc. What is it from your perspective?
Well, yeah, Brother Jeff, I feel like, as I said at the debate the other night, like this was a pre-planned attack on an ad that we had put up to really get in front of the voters to highlight the biggest two issues in the city, which is how are we going to address public safety issues and how are we going to address the homelessness crisis. That's what we were trying to highlight with the ad. I think it's a balanced ad. I think the attack, was part of politics. That happens in political races. And so, I think people who know me know where I'm coming from and trying to highlight issues and put my best ideas in front of the voters. And that's what we're going to continue to do.
So the other side of that question is, you feel as though it's a political attack for political reasons as opposed to an honest critique of what they saw in terms of the ad?
Well, I think if it was honest critique, it would have been offered as such. Instead, it was a pre-planned attack, for the debate, which, that's fine. It's politics. I get it. But, I'm going to just stay really focused on sharing people the plans that I've got to help improve the city.
Ian is asking for you to take the ad down. Will you be taking the ad down?
So we're not taking the ad down. Again, we're using that as a way to reach people about the top issues in Denver. And I'll let the voters decide because, I think what we're hearing day in and day out is people want real solutions. And that's what we're trying to put in front of all the voters.
In terms of the debate, there were many hands that went up that seemed to be in agreement that the ad is insensitive and perhaps even racist. Do you disagree with all of them, or is there any validity to what they may be saying?
Well, look, I welcome the chance to talk to everybody in town. That's what I'm trying to do. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it and anybody else, and I've talked to a bunch of great people today about it. But I feel like we're trying to run the best campaign we can to get policy solutions in front of people and let people know of what I think I can deliver as the next mayor.
And then the final question, to those who may feel offended by that particular ad, do you have a message for them, or do you have anything just specific that you would speak to those who might resonate with the other side of that argument?
Listen, Brother Jeff, I'm always trying to listen and learn. I'm also trying to put my best ideas in front of the city. That is certainly what we were trying to do when we started doing some advertising, and we're just going to keep working hard.
What is your message directly to Senator Chris Hanson?
My message is this. I've seen the data on our unhoused community in Denver, and more than half are white. And I'm not trying to bring race into this, but I am trying to say that the description, or at least the faces that I saw on the ad, didn't reflect reality on the ground. And Brother Jeff, here's why that's important. It's important because in this country, we have a history of taking images of certain types of people and using those images to create fear, to create stereotypes. And that's not great. And so, do I think Chris is racist? No, I don't think Chris is racist. Do I think Chris intended for the video to come off that way? No, I don't even think that. But I think that in today's age, when you hear something so strongly from a group of people, you gotta consider their point of view, and then you gotta make a decision. So what Chris does with the ad, that's entirely his call. My hope is he just understands the history, and there are very many examples to show why others who've used that type of ad have not done it with good intent.
Do you think the ad should be taken down?
I would take the ad down, but it is entirely Chris's call. Once again, I don't think Chris is a bad guy at all, and so he's got to make that decision.
Senator Chris Hanson has an ad up, and many of the candidates have said that it's perhaps racist, certainly insensitive, and stereotypical.
Including me.
And including you. Talk about your stance, and do you believe that ad should come down?
Yeah, I do think that should come down, and I think it's the least that you can do after putting the ad up in the first place is to take it down and use some of those resources to learn and listen and actually serve people of color.
So when you think about that imagery, can you talk about, as a person of color, and the stereotypical obstacles that we often have to overcome? I believe Chris Hanson said he's not taking that ad down, and in fact his message was to highlight the crime and the homeless, or the encampment dynamics, and so the ad may be doing what it's designed to do. What are your thoughts on that response?
Yeah, I mean, it could be. I don't know. I can't say what his intentions are, but they seem to be fairly steadfast when he reaffirms his commitment to keeping the ad up. And I think what really worries me is the statistical problem that was implied there, which is that his justification was, this is just the statistics. Well, that's exactly what we heard of in so many cases of black and brown people being brutalized throughout our country. Is statistically, these people are the ones who more likely do crime, so that the punishment can be delivered before it's even before anybody's even investigated or anything. No due process, and I just think I disagree with that.
There was a big moment in the 9 News debate as it relates to an ad that Senator Chris Hanson put up. And hands went up. It's being said to be racist, insensitive, etc. What's your take on that ad?
I think that Chris didn't see what the rest of the people in the state saw, which is that ad comes off as depicting a lot of people of color that are committing crimes in a way that reinforces negative stereotypes. And I think Chris, I hope, sees that and owns up to that. And I think that doesn't mean he intended to do it, but the fact is that is what happened. And I think that's one of the reasons why you always have to have
diverse teams of people that are at the table making every decision, every policy you make, every ad you print, every speech you give. I always have built teams that are very diverse around me because there are people that I know will see things differently than I do. And it doesn't mean you can see everything yourself, but you got to have people on your team who offer very different perspectives. And I think that the more diverse teams you have, you don't end up doing as like that.
Can you talk about imagery and the impact of certain images being perhaps stereotypical, generating fear, pointing out messages to communities that have already been under attack, and how that could probably even lead into this conversation of crime and over-policing or whatever. Can you just talk about the power of imagery and how it can undermine or enhance, public opinion?
Yeah, I think it's very important for people to stay connected to facts, right? Right now, the majority of people who are homeless in the city are white. The majority of people who are committing crimes in the city are white. And we know that that's an important thing for people to realize, because too often you get the misperception that people are taught to be afraid of communities of color or people of color because they get over-depicted as criminals. And I think you have to be very cautious to not do things to replicate that misunderstanding. And I think it was clear this ad had the impact of replicating that misunderstanding for people who are worried about the impact on communities right now. And I hear a lot from communities of color that are very worried about crime in their neighborhood. That doesn't mean they want the answer to be over-policing. They want to feel safe, they want to feel protected, but there are ways to do that without either demonizing people or without over-criminalizing communities or without over-policing.